describing the transcendental qualification of a pure devotee in these two verses. A pure devotee is never disturbed in any circumstances, nor is he envious of anyone, nor does a devotee become his enemy's enemy. He thinks, this person is acting as my enemy due to my own past misdeeds, so it is better to suffer than to protest. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.8, it is stated, Tatte nukampam su samiksamauno bhujano evatvam kritam vipaskam. Whenever a devotee is in distress or has fallen into difficulty, he thinks that it is the Lord's mercy upon him. He thinks, thanks to my past misdeeds, I should suffer far greater than I am suffering now. So it is by the mercy of the Supreme Lord that I am not getting all the punishment I am due. I am just getting a little by the mercy of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is always calm, quiet, and patient, despite many distressful conditions. A devotee is also always kind to everyone, even to his enemy. Nirmama means that a devotee does not attach much importance to the pains and trouble pertaining to the body because he knows perfectly well that he is not the material body. He does not identify with the body. Therefore, he is freed from the conception of false ego and is equipoised in happiness and distress. He is tolerant and he is satisfied with whatever comes by the grace of Supreme Lord. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with a great difficulty. Therefore, he is always joyful. He is completely perfect, mystic, because he is fixed in the instructions received from the spiritual master, and because his senses are controlled he is determined. He is not swayed by false arguments, because no one can lead him from the fixed determination of devotional service. He is fully conscious that Krishna is the eternal Lord, so no one can disturb him. All these qualifications enable him to fix his mind and intelligence entirely on the Supreme Lord. Such a standard of devotional service is undoubtedly very rare, but a devotee becomes situated in that stage by following the regulative principle of devotional service. Furthermore, the Lord says that such a devotee is very dear to me, for the Lord is always pleased with all his activities in full Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. It's great. So we have seen here the standard of a devotee. So what is the first quality Krishna talks about here? Non-envious. So what does that mean? Rishi Mataji, Mathura Gopal Mataji.
Over here, Prabhupada is describing that we should not be feeling envy to anyone, not even to the enemy, as many times it happens that with the small reasons we feel envy. So Krishna is telling here that you should not feel that, and you should understand that you are not this body, and whatever is coming to you, that is what you did in past. So just take it as a mail and be happy.
Okay, very good. Anybody else wants to share their experience trying to be non-envious? Trying to overcome or fight the feeling of envy that comes. What is the original cause of envy? Yes, we are envious of Krishna. Why are we envious of Krishna? Yeah, we want to enjoy like him, separately and also like him. So we are not happy that he is enjoying so much and we are not getting any enjoyment to that extent. So the envy of Krishna, then we become envious of our own self. How do we become envious of ourselves? Yes, please.
There is one self of ours which is very Krishna conscious and which is very dedicated, but there is the other side of our personality which wants to enjoy.
Yeah.
So that state of mind where we want to enjoy is envious of that uh, other form where where we are Krishna conscious, where we are in a kind of pure
True.
state.
True. Very good. Very good answer. So, our enjoying spirit is envious of the spirit that tries to be Krishna conscious. And we have both this in us, one person. Earlier, you guys, it was in different personalities. But now it's in the same person. So, we have to always deal with the lower nature and the higher nature. So, what does Krishna recommend? One should conquer the lower nature with the higher nature. Now, why is it that sometimes we are successful and often we are not successful? We let the lower nature take over. Why is that? And what can you do about it? We all experience struggle, right? We all experience. Yes, Pitendra Prabhu? The mic, yeah.
Because we've been acting on the lower nature for so many
Yeah,
lifetimes that
very good.
it's hard to get out of it.
Correct, very good. Correct. Answer first part one answer is correct. Now how to deal with that? Yes, Jessica?
By experiencing higher taste.
Yes, very good. By experiencing higher taste, one can give up the lower nature. But to get that taste and keep that taste, you may get a taste in Kirtan today for half an hour, 1 hour. You go home, you're back again to the lower nature. Isn't it? Maybe not today, maybe tomorrow, maybe after 1 hour, maybe after 2 hours. Our lower nature comes out again. Like Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj is saying, sometimes inside us there is Duryodhana and sometimes there is Yudhishthira Maharaj. Sometimes Yudhishthira Maharaj stands up and says, oh, don't be envious. And we feel, oh, I'm a pure devotee. And sometimes Duryodhana takes over and says, hey, come on, what is all this pure devotee, humble servant? You are the master, you should be the enjoyer. And this can come very easily. I think I even told the example of Garuda, right? Even Garuda felt like that, envious of Krishna. So it's not surprising that he felt envy, that we feel envy. It is, even Garuda can experience it, the carrier of Lord Vishnu. If he can experience it, it is very, very tricky. So that's why constant hearing is so important in association of devotees. This is a very wonderful medicine that will keep us away from such thinking. And that is why we have temple. We go to temple, attend night arati, kirtan, class, prasadam, devotees, deity darshan. Very powerful. So when we go there in that atmosphere, our desire to enjoy will be somewhat controlled. And realize a real position that we'll be happy, we're better off serving than being served. We're better off trying to give pleasure than to take pleasure. Because in giving there is so much satisfaction. If you're able to give Krishna consciousness to somebody, that's the preaching is another very important activity. But even preaching has a downside. The downside is that when we have little success, we start thinking we are so great. And then we say, I don't need to hear anymore, I already know this philosophy. Why should I waste 6 hours of my day coming to one class? Waste of my time. One starts getting such Maya arguments. Maya gives such arguments. You're better off utilizing time. 1 hour you can listen on the internet and you will get the same thing or a better lecture even. Why should we waste so many hours here? Because it doesn't take 6 hours, but sometimes the mind gives you all those ideas. But then you see, Prabhupada said our movement is based on developing spiritual leaders. And spiritual leaders can only be developed on the basis of hearing and chanting. In the teachings of Queen Kunti it says, one may develop material leaders other ways, but spiritual leader, this is the only way. By on the basis of hearing and chanting. So it comes back to this process, how important it is to hear in the association of devotees. Because if we hear by ourselves, we can hear the same point and interpret it in our own way. And even wrong interpretation sometimes. Like I explained one time, one devotee is arguing that, oh, you don't need to do any service to Radha Gopinath. You just sit and read Bhagavatam, everything will be fine. Of course we should read Bhagavatam, but we should also do service. Maybe Jitendra, if you don't mind, you can come this side because the devotees are coming, so it will be easier. Huh? They'll have to cross over everyone and come, so it's much easier if you don't mind. Yeah, okay, you come here anyway. You can come here also. That way that place is kept clear, you won't get disturbed. Thank you. That's good. So, these kind of false arguments, false conclusions we come to. Even though reading Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam is actually very good, we should read. But that does not mean that Krishna will build a temple for us. We have to build a temple, we have to do the work. Isn't it? So we have to understand these things in a proper perspective. Otherwise we can misapply that and misunderstand that and not know how to go the right direction. So our conclusions have to be verified and confirmed by the devotees. Then we know, yes, I got the right conclusion, I'm applying the right thing at the right time. Otherwise we apply the wrong thing in the wrong place, it is not going to work out. So this non-enviousness comes from, the more we hear about Krishna, the more we develop the love for Krishna. Because the antidote for envy is love. And how we develop love for Krishna? By hearing about him. That's how Rukmini described when she wrote the love letter to Krishna. Please come and kidnap me. She wrote, I heard about you from Narada Muni. That's how I became attracted to you. Now I've decided that I only want to marry you, nobody else. Please come and rescue me. My brother wants me to get married to Shishupal. I hate the thought of it. I don't want to marry him. I don't want to marry anyone. Only you should come and take me away. And Krishna, like the original true hero, in the nick of time when she thought, oh, he's not coming, maybe he's not going to come, maybe he's not going to come. She's being taken to the Durga temple and everything is getting finalized for her to marry Shishupal. And she was looking everywhere. Is he coming? Is he behind that bush? Is he hiding behind that pillar? Can I see any chariots anywhere? Is he going to come? Maybe the letter didn't reach him, the email bounced or something. Or maybe he didn't check his emails today. Krishna's busy. He had all these doubts. Is Krishna going to come or not? But last minute when she was almost about to give up hope, Krishna just swoops in. Okay, it's so wonderful to read that in Krishna book. He comes like a lion and takes away his share of the booty in the presence of all the jackals. They're howling, hey, someone do something. Yeah, someone do something. You do something, you do something. Now what are you? Why aren't you getting up? Hey, come on, someone should stop this. It's Krishna, right? And by the time they got their forces together and said, let's go and fight with Krishna, Balramji said, hang on. First fight with me, then we talk about Krishna. You won't even get to Krishna. First you have to deal with me. Fight with me first, then we'll talk about Krishna. Balramji is standing there. Any problems? I want my brother to marry Rukmini. Do you have any problem? Talk to me first. And they had a little fight they gave, but they knew they're not going to make it. Balramji is there, means finished. So like that, Krishna performs sweet pastimes. When you hear Krishna, naturally heart goes out to Krishna, isn't it? And when even the kids' videos are so nice. So then our envy actually reduces. Then slowly you can feel, isn't it? When you hear this pastime, the enviousness comes down. I think, yeah, this is no good. I tried to enjoy separate from Krishna for so long and I haven't succeeded. What makes you think that I'm going to succeed this time? So then one starts getting back to devotee mode rather than the non-devotee mode. So that is the first thing, that's non-enviousness. And the other thing that's mentioned here is that how does a devotee react to to suffering? Why does suffering lead to envy? Yes, Mataji? You want the microphone, please? Yeah. Sure. It's a big topic, so we're going to spend a little bit of time on that because we are most affected by this. Yeah, you have to hold a bit closer.
Yeah. Regarding this envy, I think I myself sometimes feel when I read the Bhagavad Gita, like, so many places Krishna says, surrender to me.
Yes.
I think for me, from my side, it's okay. But for people who are envious and sometimes I myself feel, instead of saying that word surrender, he could have said that I am the, father of, living beings, and he could have put in, instead of surrender, people don't want to, feel that surrendering thing is a bit, because of envy or because of ego, people will think like that. But instead of saying that surrendering, he could have put in, in a loving way, like, Sorry, that's...
Now the thing is, you see, first of all, Krishna is Bhagavan. We are no position to advise him how he should do things. He has obviously done things the best way. That's the first thing to realize. Our position is so, insignificant. That's the first thing. The second thing is, you see, Krishna has given different levels. He's given different levels. If you can't do this, you do this. If you can't do this chapter itself, it's there. So he has given, at the end he said, do some philanthropic work. Just do some charity or something. Do something good. Sacrifice something. Don't just be me all the time. Then you'll be miserable. Me means miserable. So why you want to be miserable? Be happy, at least be peaceful. Bottom line, he says, at least be peaceful. Even if you can't be happy, free from misery. Peaceful. Shanta. Because it says, Ashantasya kutha sukham. If you are ashanta, if you are not peaceful, how can you be happy? So the basic ground rules is about being peaceful. So one cannot be peaceful if one doesn't sacrifice something. Because the enjoying mentality destroys the sacrificing mentality, the service mentality. And therefore it becomes very difficult to even get peace of mind, what to speak of doing devotion service. So Krishna has given options. He wants to welcome everyone. Even he has described atheistic philosophy in the second chapter. You know the second chapter? He says, even if you don't believe in the soul, still you should fight. On moral grounds, on moral principles, on justice, on the basis of dharma, justice. At least on that basis you do your duty. So Krishna is always encouraging, he is not discouraging. But the standard to become Krishna, to go back to Krishna, is very high. He can't reduce it. Why will Krishna reduce it? The only surrender is the only way to go back. There is no other way. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam raja. That to surrender only to him, not to anybody else. 50%, 40%, 10%. No. So he has given the highest standard, and he has also given the way to get to that standard. So rather than, I know you are a devotee, so you won't think like that, but if someone gets offended by that, or they feel it's too unreasonable, or unfair, or too hard, too difficult, they need guidance. Just like if I tell you now, go to the medical school and I want you to be a top heart surgeon of Australia in 1 year. Can you do that? No, it's not possible. So what makes us think we can become a pure devotee in such a short time without proper guidance? Man, being a mundane heart surgeon is so difficult. What to speak of being a pure devotee? Therefore it requires training, requires a lot of patience, requires commitment. So unless we have that, it's not going to come. That's the highest level. But he has given other levels as well. Prabhupada, that's when the 7 purposes is gone. First he says to spread this knowledge to society at large, to strike a balance in society, to bring a balance in society. Janandru, you can come this side. Let me a bit closer. Come inside, yeah. More place here. So therefore to strike that balance in society, so that at least there's peaceful condition, we can spread Krishna consciousness. Krishna is always a well-wisher. He doesn't want anything less from us. So he knows what is to be told. So you see, when the same book, one devotee reads it, his heart will be captured by this. You see how many people become devotees. You ask them, I read this book and read this line that made me devotee. This passage, this verse I really liked. So Krishna appeals to the person according to their nature. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tate bhajamyam. Mam vartvan vartante manusya partha sarvasha. 4th chapter he says, ultimately everyone follows my path in all respects. So he accepts everyone ultimately. Because a father cannot reject one child and keep the other child. But still a child of Son of God. But still his children. That identity never goes. Mama amsa jiv loke jiv bhota sanatana. Sanatana means always. He never rejects us. We reject him. That's the problem. We run away from home. We rebel against him. And that rebellious mood is manifest in a rebellion against the devotees also. So we rebel against Krishna by rebelling against devotees. And that rebellious mood is what has brought us in the material world. And after taking up Krishna consciousness, we again become rebellious. So we are losing the point. Why become Krishna conscious and become rebellious again? The whole purpose is to stop the rebellious mentality, because the rebellious mentality comes from envy. It quite clearly comes from envy. And so the antidote for envy is to hear about Krishna, to have love for Krishna. Putamad bhavam agata. Vitaraga bhaya krodha. Anmaya uparshita. Bhava jnana tapasa. Putamad bhavam agata. So the mad bhavam, that love, bhava, that transcendent love, ecstatic love for Krishna, is possible when one gets free from Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha. Raga means attachment, Bhaya means fear, and Krodha means anger. So when one gets free from all this by hearing about Krishna. That's why this hearing is so important. Even one is a Paramhamsa, Uttamadhikari, still one should hear in the association of devotees. Because that is the medicine. And Maya will give us so many reasons why we should not do that. Something more important is coming up now. We should avoid this. That is Maya's job, to trick us. So Krishna has given the right thing for the right people. So whoever, whatever consciousness one is at, that part of Gita will appeal to that person, according to their nature. So Gandhi read the Gita and said, Ahimsa is the conclusion. That's not a conclusion, but for him that level, Shanti was the one that attracted him. He was so disturbed that for him Shanti was, okay, that is good. Now here Krishna is saying that's the bottom of the ladder, starting of the ladder. But he was satisfied at that level of Gita. Similarly, somebody else reads Gita, they give another interpretation.
Somebody said the same thing. How come so many times surrender?
Yeah.
Too much. That's
Yeah.
why I thought
No, I understand your point. No, you can. That's why I clarified. I said I know you are a devotee. It's not you speaking. You are speaking on behalf of somebody. I fully understand that. But you can explain to the person. You take the level that you are comfortable with. At least come to the mode of goodness. At least become peaceful. I don't think anybody objects to that. I've seen that. If you want Shanti, oh yes, Shanti you want. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. That everybody wants, right? Om Jai Jagadish Hare. That will most people want. And it's expected most people be on that level. Not everyone take up devotion service. So, the question we are dealing with before that was the question asked? Before Mataji asked her question. Huh? And it is about envy, correct? But a specific question asked. Yes, very good. Thank you, Jitendra. How does a devotee react when they are put into suffering, difficult condition? What is the reaction of a devotee? How do they deal with it? Mataji, are you able to sit there properly? Sharmaji, are you there? Or you can come forward, move a little bit. Huh? No. Sure? I don't know if you got a mat or something. Yeah. So how does the devotee deal with reverse Prabhash Krishna Prabhu? Just give the mic. Yeah. Is it on?
From my point of view, I think that devotee takes whatever is given to him by the mercy of the Lord. Because Lord Krishna is telling Matra Spastu Kontaya Situ Sukdudha Agama Painu Tasya Tantritisas Bharat. It very clearly says that Sukh and Dukh is just like winter and summer seasons. So we should take it in that spirit. And if we take in that spirit, then we will not be bothered about what is happening.
Correct. It won't be disturbed by good and bad situation. Okay. So the key point there is that we have to learn to tolerate titiksha, tolerate, with the understanding that both happiness and distress are both temporary. Thank you. They are temporary. Anitya. They are not nitya. Anitya. If I am good time, that's also temporary. If I am bad time, that's also temporary. But the happiness in Krishna consciousness can be with us all the time. That doesn't go away. It does not depend on external circumstances. Prahlad Maharaj was happy in a jail, 5-year-old boy. He was not disturbed. Very difficult. Father tried to kill him in so many ways. He was not disturbed at all. So that is the devotee's position. Because he is so Krishna conscious that he never loses calm. So difficult situation, devotee prays that I deserve more. I deserve far worse than this. So Prabhupada explains in the purport, right? But I am only getting a fraction of this. So this is so difficult to do, isn't it? Why do we think we deserve better? Janardhan Prabhu? Yes.
Prabhu, is it because of pride?
Yes. Definitely. Pride is a very big factor in that. What else is there? Why we think, Samriddhi? Envy of Krishna? Yes. False ego? All of this actually, you're right. Because we want to be the enjoyer again. Therefore I feel I deserve better. And especially it becomes very hard when you worked for it and you don't get it. Isn't it? Just like you are a parent, you bring up your children. And when the children grow up, they are ungrateful. That is so painful. Here's a legitimate reason to feel that I should get something back from them. Because you have invested so much in them. So naturally one can feel hurt. Similarly amongst devotees also, when you serve devotees and try to take care of them and they speak ill of you or they speak harshly to you or they do something very hurting, it becomes so difficult to deal, isn't it? I have put so much time and effort in you, I have helped you so much, I have tried to, look after you, but now you're turning against me. But this happens throughout history actually. That's a big lesson. So parenting is a good training ground for that. So even if somebody is envious of you, you not be envious of them. So difficult. But the only hope is, the only prayer is that yes, I deserve this because Krishna is making sure that I don't become envious of other devotees. I don't become envious. So the one way to avoid being envious of others is to tolerate when others are envious of you. Because when you're able to tolerate, you experience how they're feeling and how you're feeling. So if I am going to be envious to you, and let's say someone else is envious to me, I feel so much pain, then I will think twice before I'm envious of you. Because I'm thinking, it's so painful for me, I'm giving the same pain to you. Is that worth it? So that's why Krishna puts us in a situation where people become envious of us and they treat us badly, so that we get that realization, understand that point. That you are treating others enviously, somebody is envious of you also. And there will always be people envious of you. That's why Guru Maharaj once said, even if you are not envious, others are envious of you, it is their problem. You don't worry about it. They have to deal with it. Why are you worried about it? If you are envious, worry about that, how to fix that problem. But if others are envious of you, that's not your problem. Unless you are their mentor or guru or something, then you have to worry about it. But you don't have to worry. Devaki Mataji had her hand up first, then Charu Mataji. Please give the microphone.
Is it because...
You want to switch it off? Okay. Nidhi, just switch it off, yeah.
Prabhu, is it because we can't see our own faults? Sometimes
Yes.
we think that we are right, but
Yeah.
we might be hurting other people.
True, very true. It's very hard to see. Because of Maya, illusion, we become blind to our own faults. And that's why we need a weapon of knowledge to cut that illusion. That's why spiritual knowledge is required. Yes, Charadeshna Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhu was just remembering what His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj said about envy and hatred. Said if you are envious of others or hate others, then you are taking on the same disease.
Yes,
So
very good point. We imbibe that disease. That's very true. So that's why it's a very difficult one to deal with. But you see, our main process is to glorify. So we should see the good in others, good qualities in others. Even if you see a bad quality, rather than focus our mind on that, and that you focus so much on that your whole mind fills up like a universal form. It takes over the whole brain, whole consciousness, the whole day of thinking about it. Rather than go through that experience, which is so painful, better look at the good qualities. And that way, those good qualities will come to us, rather than those bad qualities coming to us. So these are some good strategies to deal with this. Ravi Prabhu.
Prabhu, I just remember in the retreat, Bhakti Rasamanda Swami Maharaj took up the same point in that retreat. Like envy, opposite is we should genuinely appreciate the others. And he also quoted a similar story like Bhakti Siddhanta Swami Saraswati. He had two devotees who were always envy fighting, they don't talk to each other. And then he brought both of them and asked them to tell 10 points what good points he has and tell the other person to tell
Very
10
good.
points. So then by seeing that they became friends
Yes,
again.
very good. We do that with couples also. So many husband-wife fights on them because it's the most closest being. You're very easy to take each other for granted. So I found that technique very useful, both for myself and for other devotees who come to us for help. I also, good point, yeah, and works very well actually. And even Narayani Mataji recommends that. Ruchika can explain that. What does she say about it? I think I mentioned earlier class.
Yes, please.
I already mentioned? Yeah. Anyway, I'll say it again. It's good to remember that. These are good strategies. So you're all Bhakti-Vishal leaders. So if your members come to you with fights, then these are some strategies you can use.
Yeah, so if we are in some problem or some difficult situation, we can always try to list 10 good points about that situation. So for example, what Mataji gave example that if your computer has gone out of order, then you can give 10 examples why it is good for you. Like you have more time for yourself, you can chant more attentively, you can go out for a walk. And this way you can list down 10 problems, and by the end of the at the end of writing those 10 problems, you might realize that your problem is actually going away, and you are becoming more grateful to Krishna instead of being rebellious and thinking that I don't deserve this.
Yes. Very good. Thank you. That's a very useful strategy actually. That clears the mind of your envious mentality. And rather than getting caught in the envious mentality, in the loop, I'm envious of you, you're envious of me, I'm envious back at you, you're back at me, back and forth, ping pong. Rather than get into that match, it's useful to actually stop that trend. Because when we get into that mood, what's happening? Our consciousness is spiraling down. So try to catch that. My Guru Maharaj gives the example of a pilot who's flying a plane. If he feels that the plane is nose diving, is going to crash, then what do? You pull on the throttle, full throttle, and then you try to pick it up. So he said, similarly we have to grab for devotion service. When you feel that consciousness is going down, we should grab for devotion service. Therefore, there comes the point that you all mentioned before, that we should have a taste, a ruchi for devotion service. Taste should be there. So I can grab something I like. Okay, even if not anything, at least eat some prasadam. Even if you feel sad and angry and depressed and morose, at least eat some prasadam. Watch some Krishna conscious movie, or even call a devotee and say, Hari Bol, how are you going? So even if you talk to a devotee, that breaks that spell. Because you want to keep the mind idle, it becomes a problem. And this I experienced personally. That if in our environment, everywhere we have a Krishna conscious environment, it's very nice. So at home it's especially good if you can play something all the time. Kirtan, bhajan, lecture, something. The vibrations are always on in the house. So when you're going through a difficult moment, suddenly something comes to your bhajan, one line in the bhajan, and immediately say, oh, that's the good line. Or you're reading a book, you open one page and there's something is there for you. And that'll actually give you solace and pull you out of that downward spiral. Check that fall down. Just like the throttle helps to recover the airplane. So this section is very important, quality of a devotee. The first thing Krishna mentions is not being envious, because that's obviously the root cause of everything else that goes wrong after that. Yes, Sanjali?
I have a question, how do we know that we are envious? Sometimes we might be acting innocently, but people might get offended, but we are doing it unknowingly. So how do we know that we are envious?
Yeah. Good question. So, if you're doing it unknowingly, of course, then Krishna will give us the guidance how to rectify that. But if you realize that we're envious, what should we do? So we have so many spiritual doctors here. Anyone wants to recommend anything? Any medicine?
When we remain in the association of devotees, then these qualities we can always take from others.
Okay, that's one remedy.
Yeah.
Remain in the association of devotees. Ravash Krishna Prabhu. You all got the question?
Yeah, first thing, Mata is asking, how do you know whether we are envious? The first sign of that you start talking about other person to someone else. That shows your enviousness about that person. That is very natural. People can't keep inside, If you are envious of someone, you will talk to someone about that person. So that is the first sign of that you are envious. Second point, how to overcome that enviousness. My belief is that all the devotees of Krishna are acting like a Krishna, so you should be very careful. If you are envious, sometime by nature you become envious, you should control yourself. That is very important. That the Vaishnava should not be, there should no Vaishnava aparad. Vaishnava aparad, Lord doesn't tolerate. Lord can tolerate your aparad against Lord. If you are doing puja, something you have done wrong is fine. Lord will tolerate, but Vaishnava aparad, Lord doesn't tolerate. So you should be very careful. And you will get the result very quickly. If you are a good devotee, you will see the result. You can realize that.
Yeah.
It requires a bit of indulgence, but it doesn't take much time for you to realize and why it is happening with me. Because you are rebellious to someone else, somebody is also rebellious to you. Vijay Prabhu is telling that it's by nature. The reaction will come, definitely. Sooner or later, you'll see that if you are envious to someone, someone will become envious to you.
Okay.
And the loop continues.
Okay, so Prabhupada Krishna Prabhu mentioned 2 points here. One is that if I'm envious somebody, I will start speaking ill of that person behind the back. This is one of the symptoms that will happen. Then I know that I'm envious. Okay. And the second thing is that others will also come back to me. It will also come back to me, and other people being envious to me. Any other symptoms to know that I'm envious? Yes, Amulya Prabhu. Where's the microphone? Yes, Amulya Prabhu. Then yeah.
Hare Krishna. It's actually a very good point to meditate on how can we feel whether we are envious of somebody or not. I think the first thing that came to mind was we start actually feeling very insecure. There's insecurity about somebody, taking your quality in which maybe you are good at, and you start feeling if what actually this person progress in this particular area, he might take your own, could be anything. Like, for example, if you think that you cook very nicely, somebody else is cooking also very good, then that actually might take that somebody will actually take my, glorification. So that's the first thing that come to mind, actually create some sort of anxiety in you.
Very good. The feeling of insecurity is a very good point. This is so strong that even Indra feels insecure. If someone does yagya, he says, oh, why is he doing yagya? Maybe he wants to take my position. Then he sends his special astras, Urvashi, Menaka, Ramba, go and do the needful. You know what to do, the assignment, planet Earth, target Vishwamitra, target this, target such and such rishi. Think too much tapasya. Very good. So insecurity is a very good sign that we are feeling envious. Yes, Shubha Krishna Prabhu, and then Charadeshna Mataji. That is other part A and part B. There's 2 parts to the question. She asked 2 parts to the question. It's quite clear. That is one part of the question. Another part is how do you know that we are envious? It's quite clear. I mean, that's an important point to recognize that we are envious. See, if we don't recognize we are envious of that person, there is no way of remedying that. No, there's no way of remedying that. Charadeshna Mataji had her hand up first, then Manibhushita.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I was thinking Paradukha Sukhi is a very
good,
prominent sign of
very good.
enviousness.
That's the obvious sign. Very good. That's a strong sign. When you feel miserable with others' happiness, and you feel happy with others' misery, which is basically the mode of ignorance. Yeah. So in the mode of Vaishnava is Paradukha Dukhi, but envious person is Paradukha Sukhi. Very good point. Yes, Manibhushita Mataji, you had your hand up. So you're getting answers to your questions, Sanjali? It's a very good question. A very good question because very practical. Yes, Manibhushita Mataji.
I would say if you're envious of someone, it's like you can't see any good things in that person.
Very good.
You just pointed out the faults, whatever. Even if someone says good thing, you will turn those things into negative things, and you will see the faults.
Yeah.
So you will realize it like, why I'm always saying that those bad things about that person. So it's my personal experience also. So
very
it's
true,
like
very true. I
so
totally
that,
agree with you.
That's where then when you realize that you're envious about that person, there are a lot of tricks, like you can get rid of the envious, but yeah.
Very true.
People can.
Yeah, we have been dealing with the envy topic for so long because it's so important and so detrimental to our spiritual life. We fall into that trap. It's so painful. So really have to work on it.
Prabhu, Vrindavana Palni Mataji is saying that the good sign of enviousness is our sadhana will go down.
Very good point. That's a very, very good observation. Because invariably envy is linked with offenses, as Prabhupada Krishna said. Invariably, it's very hard to be envious and not commit offenses. Very, very hard. It's very closely they go hand in hand. And when we commit offenses, naturally, our ability to do sadhana goes down. Very important. And I think we discussed the example of Shaubhari Muni. He committed offense to Garuda, and he went to meditate underwater, thinking no one is going to disturb me here. But he could not meditate. He saw fish mating and he got disturbed mind, and he came out of the water and wanted to marry the princess of the king's daughters. So his meditation was finished. So when there's envy, Vishwamitra also had the same experience. So what Mataji said, Vrindavan Palni, is very good point. Our ability to do sadhana, to control our senses, to follow the regulative principles, that ability, we lose that ability. It becomes very hard. Very good point. Anybody else? Sharmukhi?
I was thinking, especially when all of you here are leaders either in Bhakti Vriksha or Bhakti Shastri or whatever. When you become leaders, you sort of come into the limelight, whether you like it or not. And one definition of humility is to take up the instruction of the spiritual master, whether you like it or not. So if you become leaders and if you've come into the limelight, it's an act of humility. You would rather be in the background and not be known at all. So then you won't become proud and whatever. So that was one point. But when you become leaders, and especially when there is a lot going on and you become successful, success has many definitions. But when there are large number of devotees coming to Krishna consciousness through you being an instrument, then there is a lot of envy.
Possibility.
There is a possibility of lot of envy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes so difficult to tolerate. And Prabhu and I, we are also normal human beings. We are just ordinary people. And we are trying to take on this responsibility. So if you find some flaws in us, please forgive us. Because we are also in the wash of Krishna consciousness. We are not perfect. Initially, I was under great pressure. That, I have to be perfect. I have to be a role model. Everyone is looking up to me. So I have to be like this. I have to be like that. And then it started wearing down on me. I'm just a normal person. And because Prabhu has taken on this responsibility, it's not flowers all the time. Like Devamrita Maharaj said, for his Vyasa Puja, all devotees are bringing so many preps and decorating the altar and for his Vyasasana and all. He said it's not fun. People might become envious. Oh, this person is being worshipped like this. All are cooking and bringing for him. But it's not fun. And sometimes you don't want to accept all that. But you do it because, you don't want to hurt their feelings. They are like children. And Prabhu and I are not 100 years old. We are also...
halfway there.
So we are not so old that we can keep... we have taken on this responsibility, so we try. So if you see any flaws in us, we fall at all your feet and ask for forgiveness, because we are only normal human beings. And please pray to the Lord that we have the ability to carry on till the end of our lives. Because as Prabhupada very often said, Krishna consciousness is like the razor's edge. I was very hurt by something, and like it's like having so many children, and some are rebellious, some are good, sometimes the rebellious ones are very good, and sometimes the good ones become very rebellious. It's like having so many children. And he and I, we are also struggling with our own difficulties in this material world. This is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. So we have our own difficulties, and because it's a burden of love, when you take up Gurudev's instruction and say, you focus on the instruction and go on. So if you have anything against us, please come and tell us that we don't like this. You are behaving like this and it's wrong. If we will take it nicely, we promise you, even I am less tolerant than him because I'm in a woman's body, I'm less intelligent, I'm stupid. But he is very tolerant. And so I go to him to ask, see, I'm feeling like this about what this person said, the way this person behaved and whatever. And he says, no, look at the positives in them. Just this morning we had a discussion. He said, no, I want you to look at the good. I said, oh my God, it's so hard. I said, oh really, this is so hard. And then as Prabhu was saying, you seek shelter in food, I start eating.
Early breakfast today.
And he said, I started eating. And I said, this is the only way I can conquer my unhappiness, and I'm very unsettled. He said, that's good, you're eating prasadam. So then I think, oh my God, there are so many ways, there is a big spectrum for happiness. And this is what I just read somewhere. It says, being negative, unhappy, that is normally what all of us do. We focus on the negatives and become unhappy. That is spontaneous. That is being natural. That's human. It's human to just focus on the negatives because that's spontaneous. The water seeks the lower level first. So we seek the lower level, we see the negatives, we become unhappy. The next thing is to be happy for the wrong reason. In my case, I was eating prasadam, so that's also transcendental. We are all happy that we eat transcendental food, and so that is happy also. But usually, what do people do? Normal people, they seek out for alcohol, they seek out for junk food and Coca-Cola and chips, which makes them obese and whatever. That is happy for the bad reason. And then happy for the good reason, like you have a good relationship, or you've got a hike in your salary, or your PhD has come through and you have become doctor, whatever. So that is happy for a good reason, for a positive reason. And then being happy for the reason that I'm a spirit soul and Krishna always loves me. That is, if we can come up to that level, if we can be at that level all the time, that is pure devotee. Unfortunately, at least I can talk for myself, Prabhu and I are not at that level. We are not pure devotees as yet, where we always keep thinking, I am a spirit soul, and Krishna loves me, I am trying to fulfill my Gurudev's instruction, so I am happy. So I am struggling. All of us, maybe, all of us are struggling. So let us forgive each other, let us see good in each other. So I was making an effort and I am trying to. So we are children of God, we are children of Krishna, and Krishna is full of light, love, power, love, forgiveness. And Krishna is Bhavagrahi Janardhan. He only looks at the positives. Positives what? Whatever little small thing he sees bhakti in us, he'll spark it and make it big. So we should also be like that. Sorry, I became a bit emotional. I just wanted to, because we are all human beings after all. None of us are robos or pure devotees. We are in the middle somewhere. So I just spoke my heart out. Thank you for that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yeah. So Sanjali, your question is answered? Better not say no. Another 1 hour. No, but it's good to hear realizations of devotee, because this is a very deep subject, and unless we are contemplating, unless we are introspective, we will not understand our faults. So yeah.
Later on, if there is time, I would like to sing one song by Purandara Dasa, which talks about how a devotee deals with envy.
Oh, very good. That's very, very appropriate. Yeah, that'll be nice. With the translation, so you can understand. Yeah. So that's very good. So you see, so this is the basic point, is that we are unable to see good in others. We're unable to have a service attitude to others. That means we are developing the envious attitude. And like you all described, very good answers you all gave. When we feel that unhappy with others' happiness, when we feel happy to see others suffering. That's why, since most of you got leadership roles, again I want to share another point here in the same connection. That sometimes we like to, when people come to us with problems, we feel good. We feel good because we feel, oh, that person is suffering so much. I'm not suffering that much. Actually, I'm in a better position. And a perverted reflection of that is people watching movies. Why people watch sad movies? Because they like to see other people are suffering more than me, so I'm feeling good. Yeah, it is true. Otherwise, there's no fun in watching sad movies, right? What's the fun? The only fun is that I'm seeing someone else is suffering more than me. And that makes me, all television are like that. Exactly, that's a box of tissues always at the sofa. And a bowl of chips, comfort food. And a big pot belly. That's the reward for that strategy, if not worse. So we should not be again trying to worm out information from others so they can reveal their sadness to me, so I'll feel good, I'll feel validated. So that's why, so you should be very sensitive to the point. If someone doesn't want to share with you, then you respect their independence, their freedom, their privacy, and say, okay, I'm here to help you if you think I can help. Because we should not assume that we can help everyone also. We're not on that level. And the other person may not have the confidence to come and share with us their difficulty. But rather, we should act in such a way that any devotee can come up to us and tell us on our face what they're thinking about us. They should have that confidence, that freedom, and that openness, that I can come and tell you what I want and I will not break my relationship with you. That's ideal. I'm not saying I'm on that level or anything like that, but that's what we should aim for. It's a wonderful place, isn't it? Imagine if someone can come and tell you anything and you will not lose the relationship with the person. Of course, we should not misuse that and speak harshly and in a nasty way, or not get envious and try to hurt the person, not hurtful. But if you have got some hurt feelings, I should have the full confidence to come and tell you, and knowing fully well that you are not going to misunderstand and use it against me or become angry at me and upset. So that's the quality, that's the non-envious quality. Yudhishthira Maharaj was on that level. Anyone could go and speak anything to him. Lord Ramchandra, of course, he's a Lord, but still he exhibits Maryada Purushottam, is showed. How? So that is a quality of leadership which actually is epitomizing or showing non-enviousness. That I have the guts to face up to my anarthas. I have the courage to accept my faults. I have the courage to have my faults exposed in public and learn from that and try to correct myself. This is a very humbling experience, but I tell you, it's a wonderful experience. It's a wonderful experience. The moment you confront your anartha and accept it, yes, this is my fault, I have a big fault here, and someone points it out to me, it is so good. We should be grateful to the person. Thank you for doing this in public, so I'll never forget this again. I'll never make this mistake again. Because if it's done privately, you might again say, that's alright. Publicly, so good. So while this is painful, so this is what Prabhupada is pointing out here, it is very uplifting to take that mood. Very uplifting. That's the Kunti Maharani prays, let those vipata difficulties come again and again. Let me have those difficulties again, because that's the opportunity for me to purify myself. If I didn't have the difficulty, I wouldn't take shelter of you. That's why she says there are 4 obstacles to that surrender. We're talking to you, Shanti Mataji's point of surrender now. The 4 obstacles to surrender. What are the 4 obstacles? Janma Aishwarya Shuta Shivi Edamana Madapuman. He says these 4 things are big obstacles. Janma means birth in a high class family. Then Aishwarya. wealth, and beauty. Huh? Shruta Shibi, education and beauty. Yeah, wealth, education and beauty. So birth in a high family. Janma Ishra Shruta Shibi. Edamana Mada Puman. Mada means it intoxicates us. We're a little beautiful, someone is good looking, they become intoxicated. We're proud. Oh, I'm so good looking. If someone is wealthy, they become proud of that. Edamana Mada. Mada means intoxicated. Puman. Puman means human being, man. Na eva harati abhidhatum vai tvama kinchana gochara. Such a person cannot chant with feeling, cannot call out to the Lord with feeling. When do we call out to the Lord with feeling? When we have no other alternative, like Draupadi, nothing, no other way out. You are in trouble and nobody is there to help you. No one can help you also. Then we call out Krishna, Krishna. But one is intoxicated by the four things. Na eva harati abhidhatum vai. Because yatvam akinchana gochara. What does akinchana mean? Huh? Without material possessions. Prabhupada one time in Mayapur, he asked for some Ganga Jal. Devotees went and bought him a lota of Ganga Jal. Ganges is nearby. Early days when the center was not set up, ISKCON was just only a straw hut was there. Prabhupada living in a hut. And devotees gave him a glass of water to drink and he drank Ganga Jal from Mayapur. And he felt so satisfied and he said, "It is so wonderful to have nothing." No bank balance, no credit cards, no mortgage, no debts, no litigations, no legal problems, no help, nothing, to have nothing. It's so good. Moment you think I have something, immediately the fear and insecurity and envy and all these things will come. Moment you think something is mine. So she is calling, Kunti Devi is calling Krishna as Akinchana Gochara, the property of one who has nothing. See, this is a wonderful thing. Krishna becomes the property of someone who has no property. And we have so many false properties. So many. Janma, Ishra, Shruta, Shivi. These are our four obstacles. But doesn't mean that we shun this, as Sharmukhi was saying. Rather, we accept this on behalf of Krishna to use in his service. Because shunning them is a Mayavad approach. They say, no, I don't want these things because I will get attached. But devotee's approach is, no, I will accept this if they are coming, not hanker for them, not run behind them. But if we get it, we accept it and perform the extra austerity of not getting attached to it and offering to Krishna. That extra austerity has to be done. That's why my Guru Maharaj said in Vyasa Puja that a Vyasa Puja is more austere for the Guru than for anybody else. Because he has to tolerate so much glorification. But if he says, no, I don't want Vyasa Puja, some Gurus are like that, they say, no, we don't want Vyasa Puja. Then what happens? That devotee doesn't get a chance to make spiritual advancement, because when you glorify the Guru, our envy goes down. We make advancement. So Guru is facilitating that, our ability to overcome envy by glorifying him or her, as the case may be. A spiritual master, maybe Diksha Guru, Shiksha Guru also, any Guru, parents, elders, anything. So they are actually performing that austerity of accepting the glorification, not getting attached to it, and offering to their Guru. And all the way to Krishna. Rather than saying, oh, too hard, leave me alone. I would rather be in the background. That's why some devotees, we tell them, Prabhu, you should become a leader. Oh, no, Prabhu, I'm not qualified. Of course, they're being humble, that's nice. But at the same time, we have to take on that role. Because Krishna wants us to do that role. I know there will be challenges and we may be feeling uncomfortable or incapable of doing it, which is nice to have that humble feeling. You should never think, oh, I'm very qualified. Finally you realized, huh? I've been waiting for so long. When do you make me a leader? You didn't make me till now. That is obviously not the right feeling. That overconfidence, utsahamai. There are 6 causes of, 6 kind of anarthas, correct? So utsahamai is one of them. Over enthusiastic. Assignment. Oh yeah, that's good. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, that's right. So utsahamai, that's one of them. False enthusiasm. So these are not signs of Krishna consciousness. That's not a sign of higher taste. In case you get mistaken. So this is a very big topic. I don't want to spend the whole day on that. Almost did. almost an hour going on this, but it is so practical because every moment of our life we are touched by this. And if we can deal with this nicely, we make good progress. So let us welcome these situations which allow us to surrender and progress further. And a situation comes where it is being glorified, we are being glorified, we should be very careful not to fall a prey to that one. That's why it's easier to surround ourselves with younger people because everyone glorify you, you look good in front of them. Very hard to be with peers. Because among peers, they are not going to glorify you. You are equal. You don't feel so good. That's why some of the Bhakti leaders, they feel very good with their members. They feel, oh, they're very good. They say, Prabhuji, Mataji. If I come here, I'm like nobody. I don't feel so important. So that's a danger sign. That's a danger. So there are such devotee means they only want to give class. They'll never attend classes. They only give class. Otherwise they won't come. So that's a symptom of envy. Because they don't want to hear glorification of Krishna. I want to be glorified when I glorify Krishna. So even though I'm glorifying Krishna, actually I'm glorifying myself. See how tricky it is, right? I'm talking about Krishna. I'm Krishna. Prabhu, I'm Krishna conscious. I'm talking only about Krishna. But only because I'm being glorified in the process. So many pitfalls are there, right? So many pitfalls. I'm sorry, I'm just sharing so many realizations because I think, this is our experience we're sharing. There's a book you can read, I can also read. But this is what we don't get is our experiences. So I'm just trying to bring out your, experiences you had in this path, and don't be shy to some of you not speaking, but please do bring up points. Ruchika, yeah.
Prabhu, on that point where you mentioned that, when someone points out our negative qualities or someone criticizes us and we are supposed to tolerate it and, not take it in a negative way. The thing is that, this thing comes to my mind that, if someone is criticizing me or saying something bad, which may be sometimes baseless also, or I don't understand why that thing is being said to me, then if I'm tolerating it, then I think that I also get this authority to say bad things to people that, you are not humble, you are not surrendered, this and that, and I expect them to, take it in the same way. That may not be the case. They might rebel and, I'll tell them, oh, excuse me, you are not humble.
Yes.
Yeah, so how do I, do you think it's correct to think like that? That,
yes.
I also get an authority to, criticize people and say bad things to them?
Very wonderful question actually, yeah. Very wonderful question. You see, when Madai hit Lord Nityananda on the forehead, he said, by hitting me, you have given me the authority to give you the mercy. Don't think because hit me I will not give you love. I will still give you love of Krishna. I'll still forgive you and give you love. So when someone attacks you like that, yes, it does give you authority to do something, to respond. In other words, you could give back to them. That's the natural tit for tat, human level. But if you want to become Deva, like a demigod or a Sura or a Vaishnava, then one goes higher than that. So Lord Nityananda is showing us the height of, or the epitome of not only forgiving but also willing to give prema to that person. So that's one aspect. But the second, so that's the ideal. So we should always have two things in mind: the ideal and where we are. Okay, we should not lose track of the ideal and thinking, that's impossible, forget it. That is not correct. That's being skeptical. So we should always have the ideal in mind. That's the reason Prabhu said in one class that in the class we come and hear the ideal. Because sometimes you are cynical. What's the point in hearing all that? Come on, you're not non-envious, you're not honest, you're not this, you're not. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I agree. But we should still in the class, we should always hear the ideal from the Bhagavatam, from the Gita, from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then we should place us, okay, now I'm here, I want to be there. So how do I progress to the next level? So you are now talking about the next quality of tolerance. Now the tolerance has different ability for everyone. According to a threshold, you should tolerate. We can't tolerate like Haridas Thakur being whipped in 22 marketplaces. What whipped? Even shouted once, get angry. We're not on that level. So we have to also measure ourselves and say, okay, this is my capacity, I can handle this. More than this I can't handle. So we can't be Haridas Thakur, nor can we go tit for tat and make the whole world blind. That's not a good response either. Eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. So we don't want to go on that, stoop to that low level. So that person is throwing dirt at me, I'll throw dirt back at him. So what is the use of our being so much Krishna conscious and we are going down to his level and fighting with him? We have to show something better than a person, right? So Lord Nityananda demonstrated the quality of ultimate tolerance and ultimate mercy also. So because you hit me now, I have the authority now to give you mercy. See? One would not take that as authority. But Lord Nityananda took that as his privilege. Oh, you done good. You hit me now. Now I'm ready to give you mercy. Not mercy. Then it proved effective. Earlier Lord Nityananda told Jagamadaya, please stop drinking and start chanting Hare Krishna. They would not listen to him. But when they hit him, when Madai hit him, everything changed. So imagine how much a devotee has to tolerate. But we can't imitate. So you have to understand what our level is. That's the Narada Muni story is there with the snake. He told the snake not to bite. You know the story? And the village people started stoning the snake. Almost killed him. So then Narada Muni said, then snake said, what should I do? How much should I tolerate? You told me to tolerate, I'm tolerating, but I'm almost dead now. He said, I told you not to bite, but I didn't tell you not to hiss. So if they were getting too much advantage of you, you can hiss. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna wants to tolerate. And Krishna is telling, enough is enough. Now you don't tolerate. Now you shall fight. Uttishta, uttishta, parantapa. Now you should fight. So when the reason to fight is there, we should not be afraid. When the time to tolerate is there, we should not be afraid also. But that balance depends on our level. We should know our limits, how much we can tolerate. But every time we should try little more tolerance than the last time. We should try to improve ourselves. Actually. Make sense? Thank you. On the mic? You just want to say, can you just ignore it? Yeah, again the tolerance level it comes based on tolerance, isn't it? How much you can tolerate. So everyone has different bandwidth, tolerance bandwidth. But we should be always trying to increase that bandwidth, the tolerance threshold. The threshold, we should try to improve that. Ignoring is a good way of doing it. If especially the person is saying something baseless, no point going tit for tat. Like sometimes in the office it happens, somebody sends a nasty email to you, copying 10 other people and so many BCCs, who knows, behind the scenes, very political email. Now you can get into the, okay, you said that, now watch out, now here comes my astra, I'll fire back at you. One can do that, or one may say, hang on, this email is not appropriate, let's go and talk about it. Go to the meeting room, yell at each other, calm down, okay, alright, this is what we're going to do. So ignoring is good option if it is possible, but very often it's not possible to ignore. Which is why if our mind is Krishna conscious, it's easier to ignore those things. No? If we are Krishna conscious, we can just switch our mind to something else and we can say, this is insignificant. And by ignoring, actually, you are not empowering the person to give back more. Because when you get upset, you are empowering the person to hurt you more. And that's what they want. So by ignoring them, actually they are saying, it's not working. So they are defeated. Yeah, who was it who told me this? It's the best way to make such a person unhappy is someone's trying to hurt you, right? The best way to make them unhappy is to start laughing. You laugh and the enemy can't tolerate you're laughing. Somebody is inimical to you, envious of you, they can't tolerate if you are laughing, if you are happy. So do something that makes you happy, and when they see you happy, they become more disturbed. There's one lecture Prabhupada said, that title of the lecture is Disturb the Envious ? That is our duty. Next line. So sometimes that is required, but sometimes it may not be a good idea. So we have to know what works when, what is suitable at what point in time. So that's why we have to pray to Krishna. Please guide me. I don't know which is which. What is the best thing to do? Yeah. Okay, the next quality after envy. What's the next quality mentioned here of a devotee who is very dear to Krishna? That's the other thing. As we go through these qualities, we realize that we are coming closer to Krishna. So it's not a loss, it's a gain. We're gaining. Always satisfied. So what does Prabhupada say about always satisfied? Can you read that part, Shri Krishna? Yeah, from the purport. We read the whole purport. Okay. You made a point that, so I'm asking where is it?
Oh, it was in the translation.
Oh, okay.
Because who is tolerant and who always satisfied?
Always satisfied, yeah. Correct. So this is called satisfaction, satisfied with whatever. That is a very important quality again. Very, very important quality. Being satisfied. If we're not satisfied with what we have, what are the things that happens? Then we become envious. We are disturbed, we want to hurt other people, we want to take revenge. So we should be satisfied with whatever we got by grace of Krishna. Whatever house we got, whatever family you got, whatever wealth you got, whatever beauty you have, whatever education you have, one should be satisfied. But at the same time, one should be dissatisfied with something else. What should be dissatisfied with? Correct, thank you. Our sadhana, our devotion service, should be dissatisfied. So no, it's not good enough. I have to do better. Always try to improve. The material world, everyone tries to get more out of the material side. They are not satisfied with the material life. They want more and more. And of course, they have no spiritual life. That's why. But we have Krishna consciousness, so we should always be dissatisfied with our chanting, dissatisfied with our hearing and kirtana, whatever we are doing. We should be dissatisfied. So, no, this is not good enough. Next time I should do better. Next time I should improve. So much so that even Radharani thinks, oh, my service is not good enough for Krishna. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is mentioned, Antya Leela, this pastimes are described. When Krishna tells Radharani, don't fan me like this, you fan me like this. He doesn't say, be happy that I'm fanning you. You want to be fanned this way or not that way? No, she says, oh, thank you. That means you're accepting my service. Otherwise you would not have criticized me or given me a suggestion to do something better. That means you like my service. So she takes it as a compliment. Thank you for telling me. And this is so important in our devotee relationships. So important. Because once the devotee offers a correction, how do you react to that? Do we become defensive and try to show the other person is wrong? Or do we try to find another counterpoint in another person? You told me this, I will tell you that. You told me my English is not good. Okay, I think your singing is lousy. Or you don't play the kartals the right way. You try to get back at the person. Do we do that? Then we know we have problems. So this is very, very important also. That we accept correction with humility. Yes, Prabhu.
As you just mentioned, if someone tells you your fault, but it is you may not you try to correct it, but it may not be like it's not in your capacity to correct that fault. How do we go with that devotee? Because some devotee will tell you your fault, that you should behave like that, or you do the service in that way or this way.
Yeah.
But it's not your physical capacity or your mental ability to do that service in that particular way. Then you get into a sort of a hard rock, a rock and a hard place that you want to do that and you can't do that. Then how should we deal with that?
Very, very wonderful question. Very wonderful question. In fact, I'm reminded of your Guru Maharaj. He told that. Can you summarize the question again?
If someone tells you about your fault or that you should improve on your service, but it is like you want to improve on your service, but by physical ability or mental ability you cannot do that at this stage. Maybe you can do it after some time, but during that time, how we should handle that?
Yeah, very good question. Very, very practical question. Because again, we are all Bhakti leaders. We ask devotees to do things to us, and our Upachakra tells us to do something. So we are always in the sandwich position. So very, very important question. See, first of all, we have to have one person as our main Shiksha Guru. And that's very important. Because otherwise you take instruction from 10 people, they'll tell you 10 things. And it's not very healthy. That's why we are trying to have this mentorship system or counselor system. You have a counselor who we can go to, who will actually. So here we have a Bhakti leader. If you are a member, then leader is your natural go-to person. So that establishing that is very important actually first. So you have a frame of reference. Now, ideally that should be a Diksha Guru. Ideally. But we don't have the luxury where Diksha Guru lives right next door to us and says, any problem, just knock on my door, I'm there for you. I've got nothing else to do. We don't have that facility, right? So therefore, if we are given instruction that we cannot follow, if it's coming from that authority, who is our representative? Our representative Guru. then we should see that as an opportunity to rise to a new level and do something amazing. That's why I remember your Guru Maharaj when he said they had to publish Chaitanya Charitamrita, 17 volumes, in something like 2 months. And they said initially they had estimated that if they do work 24-hour shifts or something like that, it'll take 1 month to do 1 volume. That's the best we can do. Prabhupada wanted 17 volumes in that time. 17 times, imagine. Which is physically was impossible to their knowledge, to their intelligence, to their abilities. But they said, no, Guru wants it, therefore it's got to happen. So when the instruction comes from Guru or Guru's representatives, then along with the instruction, Krishna gives the ability to perform that service. And we should have that faith. Like Prabhupada told a devotee to start publishing Back to Godhead. And that devotee said, the only contact I have with the magazine is to read one. I never know how to publish a magazine. No idea, no clue how it happened. But Prabhupada said, Krishna will help you. Do it. And the devotee did it. And he was so happy. Joy, I did that. Like last time, Ravi Prabhu got Sunday fee sponsorship from a Bhakti Vriksha. He didn't know that everyone was going to support me. But he went and asked, and people said, oh yeah, no problem. He got more than 1,200. He got more than what you asked for. And Amulya Prabhu and all that book distribution experience last week in Hornsby. So they distributed 60 books, right? 60, correct? 60 books, see? That's a pretty amazing service. So like that, Krishna gives the ability. And when he gives the ability, we feel good. Again, I'm remembering Devamitra Maharaj. He said for 2 years he didn't distribute 1 book. But because he was given the order, he was doing it every day. He became famous as a devotee who was not distribute a single book. He became famous for that also. But then one day he got such a big, break that he distributed a lot of books one day. One person took a whole lot of books from him. One person took so many books. And then from that day it changed. So rather than us telling, I am not suitable, I am not capable, we are not actually, mature enough to decide that. So let our authorities decide what we should do. And give it a try and tell him, Prabhu, I have never done this, you are asking me to do this. There is a possibility that I may not be able to do it to your satisfaction. Please be aware of this. And that is one scenario. The other scenario is living in a society like this where there are so many devotees and big community. Naturally, many people come to you and ask you to do many things. You can't do all of them. That's not going to work. You got to be able to say yes and no sometimes. That's why the frame of reference is very important. You have one devotee who we can always talk to and say, this person decides my service, and based on his, I can tell him, look, Prabhu, I only got so much time. Already my time is taken up. I really can't do any more than this. What should we do? Then your mentor will tell you, okay, let me talk to your person who's giving you the work and find someone else to help. Because we need to help that person. If Sarvatirtha wants to get the prasad ready and he wants some help and sends out an email, which everyone ignores, except a few maybe, we should try to see how we can help him. I can't come to, but I think I know someone who's got a day off that day. Here's the phone number, call this person. Right? Is that how we work? Isn't it? So that we can do also. Even if you can't do it yourself, you get someone else who can help you because you're so busy, you don't have the time. There's someone else is there who you know could benefit. So like that, there are a number of possibilities. Depends. Now you have to get case by case. I'm giving a general answer here, but this is normally how we deal with it. So do you have a clear direction? At work, some places they have a 360 degrees feedback. You take feedback from everyone at all levels, equal levels, higher level, lower level, 360 degrees within the organization, outside the organization. So that's why it's called 360. So they give you feedback on how you're performing. And that gives a very valuable reference for you to see how I can improve. So in terms of service also, how we're doing it, quality. And Prabhupada wanted that everyone who takes up service, he said that you should become good at the service and then train someone else and give the service to that person. And then you take on higher responsibilities. Not to do the same thing over and over again, year after year, and not make any progress. So this is first class management. So you are managing now. So the most effective way to manage would be to understand your capacity and work within that, and occasionally stretch ourselves also so we get a little better. And if we can't, then find a delegate somebody, train someone who can do it. Rather than keep on doing service until you get fed up and then dump it and run away. And you usually dump it back to the person who gave it to you. Give it back to your senior devotee. So Prabhu, you delegate back up the line. You don't delegate up the line, you delegate down. If I get some service from Guru Maharaj, I don't say, Guru Maharaj, you do it yourself. I can't do it. No, that's not the proper mood. Rather we say, all right, I can't do it now, but I need some guidance. Maybe you can guide me, but I will try to get help and someone get it done. Because the order is there. So we take it in that mood. It's nice. So we should not get to the point where you get overburnt and overcooked and and then feel completely frustrated. That's not a good sign. At the same time, we should not be so comfort zone that we don't want to stretch ourselves. That's two extremes. Therefore, we need to know where to draw the line, and therefore we can ask for guidance. Does that answer your question? Thank you. All right. So we are talking about which quality? Satisfaction. Very good. Thank you. You are good audience, good attentive. At least some of you are. What's the next quality after that? Self-controlled. Yeah, I was going through the purport. Prabhupada has elaborated some of them. We've gone through the purport. Otherwise, every one of those qualities is wonderful. So this is the 26 qualities of a devotee. Yeah, we can take up some of those. If you want, you can elaborate on those also. So which one are you thinking about? Yeah, self-controlled. Now we're talking about nirmama, means the devotee does not attach importance to the pains and troubles. We already covered that. We covered that. Equal in happiness and distress. How does one become equal in happiness and distress? Yeah, how? By one way is to know that temporary. Very good. This is very important again. How are we equal in happiness and distress? Where's the microphone? The one point Ruchika made is that it is temporary. So knowing that it will pass, it will go. The passing phase.
And in the material world, just like winter and summer season, it will come and go. So we should not be...
That's one point that we got already. Any other point you want to add to that? Soul is unaffected by both. Very good. So we know that we are transcendental to that. Right? Very good. That's a good point. Janardhan? Yeah,
Hare Krishna Prabhu. By understanding that whatever is being given to us is being given to us by Krishna, and Krishna is our Father, so whatever comes to us, He is doing it for our own good.
Very good. Very good answer. That's nice. Yeah, so accepting that whatever we consider as good and consider as bad is actually all good. Very good. Yes, Kala Mataji?
By detaching ourselves from the fruits and offering it back to Krishna.
Yes, very good. So if you're getting some fruits, then we offer it back to Krishna. Very good. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, Amalya Pro. Both are close. Very good. That's excellent. Yes, knowing that both are going to take us closer to Krishna, so we don't have to worry about them. So in other words, you see opportunities in the negative. You see opportunities in the difficult situations. Yeah, purification process. Our opportunities are there to do something better, to come to the next level. Because if we didn't have this difficulty, we would not have transcended our lower nature. It's a good opportunity to upgrade ourselves. You see, there's one lecture I was hearing, Radhanath Maharaj, he talks about failure is a pillar of success. There's one lecture on that. It's a very wonderful lecture. He gives examples of all people who failed, apparently, but they converted a failure into a great success. Yeah, there's an opportunity in that. Like devotees had Rath Yatra in London, the first Rath Yatra, the Rath cart broke down. And devotees also broke down. Because they had done such huge publicity and everything had done, it became like a big fiasco and headlines in the paper, Rath Yatra failure. That they like to put on the headlines. But Prabhupada saw opportunity there. Oh, now everyone knows about Rath Yatra. So next Rath Yatra hold another one month later, but this time make sure that the axle is strong and the wheels are good. And speaking of which, Rath Yatra is coming up on June 29th, 2 weeks from now. So do a better job. And because of that, now ISKCON has got world standard Rath carts which don't break unless you do something stupid. As long as you follow the proper guidelines, use it properly, it doesn't break. We haven't heard too many Rath carts breaking down. But the first London Rath Yatra broke down. Even the first San Francisco Rath Yatra was a flatbed truck. That broke down as well. So it happens. But in that, this opportunity, so they had a bigger Rath Yatra a month later, a better Rath Yatra, a better Rath cart, and future it became very strong festival, big festival, all over the world. Yeah, so they got more publicity, more participation for the Rath Yatra, and also worldwide we benefit from the technology improvement. So it's a big success. It wasn't a failure. Similarly, in Bhagavatam we see example of Bharat Maharaj. Oh, we say he failed because he became a deer. But actually, because of that, he became more careful. And when he became Jada Bharat, he became perfect, pure devotee. He wouldn't have got to that level if he hadn't had that setback. But in that setback, he was very patient. He said, all right, I'll tolerate this setback. And one day I'll come back to a much higher level of devotion service. So seeing that way and that equality, then one can see both as opportunities. If times are good, take advantage of that. Let's take advantage of it and try to make progress. And share the good time with others. But if you're having difficulty, take that opportunity to improve ourselves. So devotee is always in a win-win situation. Alright? What's the next quality?
Engage in devotion service with determination.
Engage in devotion service with determination. So these are in the 26 qualities of a devotee. Which is the most important quality? Krishna Ekam Sharanam. Being surrendered to Krishna. Sharanmukhi is there? What are the 26 qualities?
Kripalu, one of this the Tarini would have told. Kripalu akrita droha satyasara sama nidosha vadanya mrudu shuchi akinchana sarvopakaraka shanta krishnaika sharana akama aniha sthira vijita shadguna. And there's one more set which I've forgotten. Yeah, and the essence of all this is Krishnaika Sharana. Being completely, the essence of it.
So coming back to what Shanti Mataji said, Krishnaika Sharanam, again is come back to the point. That is the essence of all of these qualities. If that one quality is there, then all these qualities are there. So therefore, if we glorify devotees with these qualities, or glorify these qualities in these devotees, then some of these qualities will rub off on us. They'll come back to us. So we'll finish with Arvind reading the sloka again, and translation. Nidhi knows? She forgotten. Chaitanya Charitamrita. Madhya Leela. Can't remember the exact number, but it's there. CCM. Google CCM will get it. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela. Describe 26 qualities. Yeah. Yes, Arvind. Read this verse. These two verses again. What is 13, 14? We'll repeat after you. So one line at a time.
Adveshta sarvabhutanam
Adveshta sarvabhutanam
Maitra karuna evacha
Maitra karuna evacha
Nirmamo nirahankara
Nirmama nirahankara
Samadukku sukakshami
Sakadukta saksasariri
Santushta satatam yogi
Santushtam satatam yogi
Yadatmanam nishchaya
Yadatmanam nishchaya
Mayarpita mano buddhir
Mayarpita mano buddhir
Yomad bhakta same priya
Yomad bhakta same priyaha.
One who is not envious but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself as a proprietor and is free from all false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service and with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So you see here Prabhupada says in the purport in the last part, all these qualifications enable him to fix his mind intelligence entirely on the Supreme Lord. Such a standard of devotion service is undoubtedly very rare, but a devotee becomes situated in that stage by following the regulated principles of devotion service. In other words, sadhana bhakti we are practicing helps one to get to that level. Furthermore, the Lord says that such a devotee is very dear to him, for the Lord is always pleased with all his devotees, all his activities in full Krishna consciousness. So the essence, that's the Prabhupada said, preaching is the essence. Preaching means we have to follow. So therefore, these qualities endear one to Krishna. So we should know that we are developing these qualities which are very dear to Krishna. So therefore there is no loss, no harm, no loss. Okay, so these two verses are very important. As you can see, they're very wonderful qualities. I understand we've taken a lot of time on this, but I hope it was useful because there's a lot of points to meditate on. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Samveda Bhaktavinda ki jai. Who should we thank for prasadam today? Radha Mataji ki. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Sharmukhi, are you there? I can't see you. Okay. You can sing that and Mathura Gokul can read the Nectar of the Holy Name. You got the song ready in front of you or you know it by heart?
I'll sing how much ever I remember.
Alright.
I'm meditating on Gurudev's lotus feet and Guru Parampara. I'm trying to sing to share the message of this song. Na ninna dhyana doliralu, na ninna dhyana doliralu, Rangaiya hina manavarena ಮಾಡಬಲ್ಲರೋ ರಂಗ ನಾನಿನ್ನ ಧ್ಯಾನದೊಳಿರಲು ಮತ್ಸರಿಸುವರೆಲ್ಲ ಕೂಡಿ ಮಾಡುವರೇನೋ ಅಚ್ಯುತ ನಿನದೊಂದು ದಯೆಯಿರಲು ಅಚ್ಯುತ ನಿನದೊಂದು ದಯೆಯಿರಲು I forgot. The second one is ಧೂಳಿಲಿ ಕುದುರೆ ವಯ್ಯಾರದಿ ಮೆರೆಯಲು ಧೂಳು ರವಿಯ ಮೇಲೆ ಮುಸುಕುವುದೇನೋ. The meaning is ನಾನಿನ್ನ ಧ್ಯಾನದೊಳಿರಲು. When I am meditating on you, my Lord, ನಾನಿನ್ನ ಧ್ಯಾನದೊಳಿರದು, ನಾನಿನ್ನ ಧ್ಯಾನದೊಳಿರಲು ರಂಗಯ್ಯ. He is calling out to Lord Panduranga, ರಂಗಯ್ಯ. ಹೀನ ಮಾನವರು ಏನು ಮಾಡಬಲ್ಲರು? What will the people who are in the modes of ignorance and passion, what will they be able to do to me if I am constantly meditating on you? And for that he gives a few examples. He says kudure means horse. When a horse is galloping, it raises a lot of dust, but will the dust be able to go and cover the sun? So also, if someone is being very evil-minded and troubling you out of envy, then if that devotee is meditating on the Lord, so that will not affect him. And finally, he gives this example of how ಕನ್ನಡಿಯೊಳಗಿನ ಗಂಟು ಕಂಡು ಕಳ್ಳ ಕನ್ನವಿಕ್ಕಲು ತನ್ನ ವಶವಹುಗುದೆ. He's saying, if a thief comes and tries to steal the reflection of the gold, then can he steal it? that it's only in the reflection. Can he steal that gold? So also, bhakti is something which should not be affected by anything. But it is our goal to reach that place where nothing should affect our devotion to the Lord. Nothing. But I should confess that I am not at that level. And I hope I am trying in a sincere way. We can only try, like the two fingers in the Damodar Leela. We can try, and the rest is up to Gurudev's mercy and Krishna to make it happen. Sorry, I didn't learn I sang the song many years back, so I couldn't sing it properly.
Maybe next week you can bring the full song and you can have sing at the beginning of the class.
Thank you for tolerating this song. All of you are better than me, so all of you ki jai.
Okay, Mathura Kokilmati, Jewels of Nectar.
Hare Krishna. Reading from the Jewels of Nectar by Kadamba Kannan Swami. Even when one tries to fix the mantra in one's consciousness and sincerely tries to chant, the mind wanders and we get distracted. Meanwhile, Krishna is watching our chanting, and he is watching it. Boys, he is watching it. And if he catches you, and if there is one mistake, he will note it down and will hold you back. For that, you will stay in the material world. And is that Krishna, the all-loving, all-merciful Supreme Lord? Well, that may be your Krishna, but not my Krishna. My Krishna is very understanding. My Krishna is very merciful. My Krishna is very kind. My Krishna looks at the intention. He is Bhavagrahi Janardana. My Krishna cares about the intention in the heart. My Krishna is the one from the story about the man who with great difficulties tries to make a clay pot. He wasn't very expert. The potter's wheel was spinning. He took the clay and he made the pot. And then after 1 hour of trying again and again, there was a something that looked like a pot. He wasn't perfectly straight, but boy, it was the miracle that it even looked like the pot, and he was thinking, if this is the best thing I'm going to make in my life, then this is it. And then he offered it to Krishna, saying, Krishna, please accept this pot. It's the best I can do. I know it's not perfect, but please accept it. And Krishna accepted it more gladly than he accepted the pot made by the potter who just carelessly threw the clay and in 1 minute created a perfect pot. Krishna was more happy with that cooked pot that was made with blood, sweat and tears. So my Krishna looks at the intention. That's the Krishna I turn to. That's the Krishna I pray to. He is very soft-hearted, my Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Very nice examples. Zolnas Kadamkan Maharaj ki jai, Sri Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Gauranitai ki jai, Radha Gopinath ki jai, Jagannath Baldev Subhadramai ki jai. Hare Krishna.